It didn't roar. It didn't march. It whispered through the ports, hid in the fur of rats, slipped aboard ships, and crept silently into every home. By the time the world realized what had arrived, millions were already gone. Entire cities fell silent. Streets once alive with life became graveyards. And humanity would never forget the terror of a plague that could claim anyone, anywhere, in the blink of an eye. Europe was a land alive with markets, bustling with merchants, children running freely, and the scent of fresh bread mixing with livestock. Life felt ordinary, but ordinary was fragile. For centuries, people believed they could control their fates, that sickness could be managed with prayers, herbs, and rituals. But the Black Death would prove them wrong. It arrived quietly at first, hidden in the hulls of ships docking at Genoa and Venice. Rats scurried unseen, fleas clinging to their fur, carrying a disease no human could yet comprehend. Sailors fell ill first, their bodies marked with black blotches that no herbal remedy or prayer could cure. Villagers thought it was a fever, perhaps a seasonal illness, but within days, entire households were struck down. Fathers, mothers, children, all gone, leaving only silence in their wake. The plague spread like wildfire across Europe, carried by travelers, traders, and fleeing families. It moved faster than anyone could comprehend, ignoring walls, gates, and barriers. Even the wealthiest noble could not escape its reach. Fever, chills, vomiting blood, swollen lymph nodes, symptoms that brought swift and terrifying death. Families huddled together, hoping their love could shield them. But the Black Death did not distinguish between care and neglect. Doctors tried to intervene. They applied leeches, herbs, and potions, burned incense, recited prayers. But medicine was powerless. Every home they entered was a potential death trap. Entire villages emptied as people fled, carrying the plague to new lands. Towns once vibrant with trade fell silent. Fields went untended. Markets stood abandoned, goods rotting in the sun. Fear became law. Superstition ruled hearts. In Paris, London, Florence, and Venice, chaos consumed the streets. Families were torn apart by fear. Children were left alone, mothers abandoned, fathers vanished into the night. People accused neighbors of poisoning wells, and minorities were falsely blamed, triggering violence and massacres. In some towns, panic drove citizens to burn entire communities, hoping fire could halt the invisible enemy. Churches overflowed with the dead. Mass graves were dug hastily, stench of decay filling the air. Even the prayers of the devout offered little comfort. Yet, amid the horror, small acts of courage persisted. A young girl carried water to her sick grandmother, sharing the last morsel of bread she had. A monk walked through plague-ridden streets, holding the hands of strangers as they whispered their final prayers. Families stayed together, holding each other close, even when every touch might mean death. These acts of love and bravery became fleeting beacons in a world consumed by darkness. The disease reshaped the very fabric of society. Laborers were gone, and with labor scarcity came unexpected change. Survivors demanded higher wages, shifting power from the elite to common people. Art, music, and literature reflected the omnipresence of death. The danse macabre, skeletons leading the living to their graves, became a haunting motif across Europe. Religion was shaken to its core. Why did the righteous perish while sinners survived? The faithful questioned their God, and some abandoned belief entirely. Venice became a floating cemetery. Ships from the east brought trade, wealth, and death. Canals, once lively with merchants and gondolas, now carried corpses to mass graves outside the city. Dockworkers refused to unload goods, fearing contamination. Families barricaded themselves inside homes, surviving on what little they had stored. Starvation and disease intertwined, and survival required unimaginable courage. In London, the wealthy tried to escape the plague by fleeing to country estates, leaving servants behind. Castles became prisons rather than sanctuaries, for the plague moved invisibly, slipping past guards and gates. No fortress could withstand the invisible tide. No wealth could purchase immunity. Death walked freely among all, claiming one life after another, leaving streets empty, homes abandoned, and cities silent. Stories of survival and heroism persisted despite despair. A baker risked his life to provide bread to those too weak to leave their homes. A healer tended the sick without hope of payment, refusing to abandon anyone, though many died in his care. Monks continued to bury the dead, their robes blackened with soot and plague, their prayers echoing over those who could no longer hear. These acts reminded the living that even in the darkest times, human courage and compassion endured. By 1350, the Black Death had claimed nearly 1/3 of Europe's population. Cities that had been cultural centers fell silent. Trade routes slowed, economies collapsed, and the continent was forever changed. Survivors were left to navigate a new world, one where death was a constant companion, where every breath carried risk, and where life itself became a precious and fragile gift. The psychological toll was immense. Survivors carried the memory of lost children, vanished siblings, and departed spouses. Nightmares haunted their sleep, and grief became a permanent shadow. Those who had escaped the plague lived with the constant reminder of mortality. Every empty street, every abandoned home, every whispered rumor of death was a testament to the fragility of human life. Yet, out of this horror came resilience. Fields once abandoned were replanted, markets reopened, towns slowly repopulated. Europe adapted, society changed. Labor shortages forced the powerful to negotiate with peasants. New art, literature, and cultural expressions arose, reflecting the shadow of death that had passed over the continent. The Black Death became not only a story of death, but also a story of survival, adaptation, and the unbreakable spirit of humanity. The plague left scars that lasted centuries. Graveyards remained, silent monuments to the lives that had vanished. Tales of courage, despair, and endurance were passed down from generation to generation. Art depicted skeletons dancing among the living, a constant reminder of mortality. Literature told the stories of those who loved and lost, who survived against all odds, who witnessed death and lived to tell the tale. Even today, the echoes of the Black Death remind humanity of its vulnerability. Civilization can crumble in the face of unseen forces. Life is fleeting, fragile, and precious. Yet, even in the most terrifying of times, humanity finds a way to endure. Families, communities, and entire societies rise from the ashes, carrying forward the lessons of compassion, courage, and resilience.